All right, let's go over today for a little bit, guys. This is important. It is a part of history. So, I sort of built off of this other drawing that I did and kind of made everything like an extension or another expression that is somehow connected to kind of something that is still plain to see. And then actually to create the extension up here, I used a dried up leaf that cast a shadow down to this middle part here that I have a photo of, but I just sort of added that extra dimension of reality kind of for the mixed media effect of it all to kind of create this, cohesive sort of expression of all variables. That's what I mostly worked on when I was out in nature today. And then I sort of felt like I wanted to kind of follow a spirit up here a little bit. And so I came up here and I just started kind of trying more of that, squaring the circle thing. And kind of started off by trying to actually create the circle first and then create the square around it. And I'll tell you what all these other kind of scribbles are here in a minute. But I felt like I was getting kind of close to the idea of kind of what it all meant. And that one with all the scribbles is actually kind of the closest to the idea that I ended up expressing. I kind of all of a sudden had this flashback to one of my writings about having the angle being unknown. And if you sort of have the angle as the unknown, it allows for basically this whole idea of what I ended up putting down here was if the angle is truly unknown, and the best way that I felt like to represent that was just a line, and I figured, why can't a line be an angle if, perhaps it's like ongoing. Maybe that's another way to express infinity, is like an angle that is infinite kind of, which means that it's kind of constantly changing, actually. Like the angle is constantly changing is what sort of a variable kind of angle would mean. And I tried to represent that as like a line until I figured that with kind of like my feeling, I could almost measure out this entire booklet against itself. And so then that's where I just started writing 18s as like the consistent measure for everything. And then I figured that the only way that I could really break measure was if I was to create something that actually sort of extended off of the page itself. But how do I create that effect? And so then that's where you see me here trying to create these ideas of extensions that kind of go off the page, as it were. Maybe that's, oh yeah, here's the other one. These two. They almost look like telescopes. Kind of interesting. If I had to say what they look like, just off my kind of initial observation of them. But I tried to create sort of this idea of them kind of repeating and extending to give this sense that, because I felt like truly the only way that they could equal each other is if neither of them was actually really complete. which then led me to this. I actually feel that the best way to accomplish this idea is continuation. So I was trying to express that idea. But I guess the best example would be an actual idea, with its efficacy being possible identification with the most common tool, which makes me question what the most common tool is. Will it also be the most common tool in time? Which leads me to the idea of the chicken or the egg. Now, felt like, did thought come first or the tool, being perhaps the greatest idea I can think of in representation of a greater use of the question? For it seems as soon as thought is, it can question reality, where a tool is a reality, which is then like saying what is more true, a question or reality. I say it is an example problem because if the question comes after the truth, it's as if reality has created a question. So by the use of a tool, we then say we have thought. What makes reality have only one end? What makes its reason less the more the line is then made from this end for life to be? What if we say thought is first? If thought goes to a tool, then the more thought is considered in the creation of a tool, the tool is a dead end, which makes the idea of thought being used for such a thing less, and every tool a failed extension of thought. This is because the idea of thought will be considered less the more there is a reality, what makes it a poor thought, although the two ends seem to gravitate like this idea of my circle and squares, where the change position at the point of where a square, even though it is more tool-like, has a greater rate of change at a corner, making change more true if we consider the square to be the more practical tool. I have also considered the idea of gradual being the actual solution, where the irony being that the circle is a gradual object in its change over time, making it more normal once coming to an end. Which then in this composition of elements, I think that my point is perhaps in the beginning of this thought. But is it a tool or a thought, I say? Dave Mile, Gabriel Whitner, Crow Ein Tile Remix. Maybe now my abrupt change, even though it seems circular and its logic is thinking everything makes sense, is more square by how abrupt a change it is. Ich eil often, senwick soften, mocha bren, du often, somo tomo tu, ist befist, tunda lendorama, bofesist. And the rest is kind of fuzzy. And then I tried to basically flip the idea one more time with an opposite by drawing a character. And this character is actually very, very, very complex. He's cute, yet wild. He's dewy, yet bright. He's a man, yet a beast. He's scales, yet he has fur. He's everything. And the more that you look at him, the more that you'll see a great beast as well come out of the entire equation. Now again, all of that is fairly fuzzy, especially the words directly above him, in which case I was trying to write in a sense like I was trying to actually write with feeling. But I quickly tried to make it have solid ground, and that's why as soon as I actually saw that it appeared valid, I basically tried to set it in stone as best as I could, and that's with the character creation, which, if you guys don't understand, like, this entire process is a risk after risk after risk after risk. And I basically completed it. And even though the pronunciation of all of that is pretty fuzzy, I do remember the next part very well. You can't catch me, poo-poo pee-pee.